Good morning and welcome to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation from Nation's Best Family Healthcare up here in Lynn Haven and now on Panama City Beach.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, now what's your address on Panama City Beach?
It's 7504 McKelvey. It's right off
McKelvey, that's right.
right off Thomas Drive.
Yeah, how's that going? How's the new
We've been at it
location?
for just under a month now, and we're still trying to get patients used to the idea that we have people out there, but it's coming along. We have some other projects that we're trying to do to get people caught up on like wellness exams. There's a whole lot of patients that we see just about every couple 3 months or so to update their stuff, but they don't get what Medicare calls or what insurance companies call a wellness exam, which is not just how's your blood pressure kind of thing. It's really it's a counseling session mainly for lots of things in terms of prevention. It's what we develop what's called a personal prevention plan. So we go over things like colon cancer screening, prostate cancer screening, mammograms, all those types of things, including vaccinations, and then cardiovascular disease, that kind of stuff, to make sure that we've got all those things covered.
The personal protection plan is available either in town here in Lynn Haven or on the beach at either location.
Yeah.
And I guess the idea behind the location is that, or the new location is that if you work on the beach and live in town, you can go on your lunch hour or after work and still keep an appointment without having to drive
all the way back or
all the way over the bridge.
Time off work,
And I tell you, to a lot of people, sometimes that bridge is like a wall.
Yeah,
I got to go all the way out to the beach.
It's an extra 3 miles.
It's not that big a bridge, people, but still.
Right.
But so you'll be able to service your existing patients a little bit better with the two locations. Are you accepting new patients?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so if you live on the beach, and what was holding you back was, that long drive to Lynn Haven.
Right.
No excuses now. You can go see Dr. Nation and go see your nutritionist and all those other people that you have on staff.
And there's been a couple of docs on the beach that kind of transitioned their practice over to more of a specialized type thing, and so they're looking to back up and have a less expensive option. So that's available for them too. So we take all the regular insurances like Medicare and Blue Cross, Blue Shield, Aetna, Cigna, United. All of those plans we're part of.
There's something I wanted to ask you about, and and this is not a political show, but the elections are over.
Yes, they are.
Okay, and I guess it was Amendment 2, which was that medical marijuana amendment, did not pass.
It did.
It
did not pass.
Yes.
Correct.
And how do you feel about that? I mean, there's been some spirited conversation in some quarters about, well, that really should have passed.
I was actually surprised at a couple of the elections with Steve Sutherland as well as the medical marijuana not passing, because I had patients in my primary care practice coming in and asking me if we were going to be providers once it passed. And then you see some of the way that the country is going as far as some of these political issues about, years and years ago, the whole big issue was abortion, and people were very, very divided on the issue, and now it's more or less settled, and there's kind of an even ground in the middle that you can play both sides. But marijuana, my issue with marijuana is not that it's an invalid or an incorrect therapy. It's the fact of patients will often request things that they don't need, and therefore they'll create a market that basically develops bad medicine. And there's not enough regulatory agencies in Florida to actually get those doctors under wraps. We have a handful of pain clinics around town. Dr. Shores comes on your show. He's a fantastic doc. There's about 3 docs in town that I use for that specific type of stuff, because I believe in the kind of medicine that they do. But there's another handful of them around town that are just like what we talked about in the break was, they come in and they're like, oh, my back hurts, and okay, sure, here's some opiates, well, and you can just extend that to saying,
you can only imagine what the demand for marijuana would be.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, this medicine doesn't work now. I really want to try this, and there is some addiction potential there, quite a bit of addiction potential there for medical marijuana.
Is it really that bad, Dr. Nations? I mean, is it truly a gateway drug?
There's a lot of psychological debate about that, because for people that don't have the addictive chemistry in their brain, no, it's not a gateway drug. But for the folks that have chronic pain and the ones that are kind of in that whole market where we have all this opiate abuse, there's a whole host of population out there that does have that brain chemistry, and it's just another tool for them to do.
Well, we have to run off to the local weather, but let's talk more about that on the other side of your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Roman Nation, and we're talking about addiction. I guess we're talking about addiction because we managed to keep this conversation going through the break. And we're usually happy talk on this show. And we did talk about the results of the election and Amendment 2 not making it.
Right.
And at least I think, and this show is all about healthy living.
Correct.
And it's about a positive attitude, and it's about prosperity and growth here in Northwest Florida. And I just think life is hard enough without complicating it with drugs.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of things to it. And what problem is what most people do is they will look for the easy out. So like when folks want to lose weight, what do? They try to go to the weight loss center for a doctor that will just write them a script and not actually talk to them.
Or get a lap band or something like that.
Yeah. And there's a little more restrictions on before you get to surgeries like that. But there's a whole bunch of clinics around town that will sell you memberships and all kinds of things for how to lose weight fast. I mean, we see that kind of stuff all the time.
But my question still stands. Is marijuana really a gateway drug? Should we be relieved that Amendment 2 didn't pass?
I'm personally relieved that it didn't pass, but it doesn't mean that it's an invalid therapy. To me, if it was going to pass, and it probably will pass eventually, there needs to be a lot of other steps taken by the government or some sort of regulatory agency that is going to help manage those patients. Right now, we have other clinics around town that do the similar types of pain management kind of thing, and nobody regulates them until it gets so gross that they have literally thousands and thousands of patients at risk before the government finally gets involved.
You had also mentioned an interesting fact to me that drugs actually change your brain chemistry and change your behaviors and your decision-making processes.
Yeah. Oh, we have patients that come and see us asking for one type of medicine, and we screen them to look for other stuff that's not supposed to be in their system. And it's not a policing thing. It's really more of a matter of we need to know what's in your system so that we can practice medicine safely for you. So if you're saying that you're taking XYZ and there's actually A, B, C, and D also in your system and we don't know about it, then we actually have the potential of harming you with the therapies that we do. So there's a lot of disclosure there, and a lot of patients are very dishonest with what they're taking or where they're getting it from and things like that.
So you would envision if there was such a thing as medical marijuana, there'd be a lot of fakers coming to your practice looking for a script.
We'd have a lot of that, and then we'd have a lot more other issues with just a market of doctors popping up. And where I'm from in Las Vegas, there's a giant billboard as you go down the freeway that says "Call Dr. Reefer." And it's
Dr. Reefer.
Dr. Reefer is exactly what's on the billboard, and it has a number in giant letters that you can see from 3 miles away. For where you can call to get medical marijuana.
Anything that compromises your cognitive capabilities is not a good thing.
No.
I enjoy an occasional glass of wine. I'm sure some of our viewers do, especially you moms out there. You know who you are. You like to have that little glass of wine at the end of the day, and I guess that's okay.
Right.
Unless you have a highly addictive personality.
Exactly. And for a lot of the patient population, it is okay because we have the brain chemistry that says enough is enough. So for most people without alcoholism, 1 drink is okay, 2 is plenty, 3 okay, I'm a little too far. And by the time you get to 4, it's like okay, wait.
So not everybody who has a drink becomes an alcoholic.
Correct.
And I've heard the argument saying, well, not everybody who smokes pot becomes a pothead or a drug addict or goes on to the next drug.
I have yet to see somebody who actually fits that category.
Really?
Yeah.
So clinically, if someone's smoking pot or has smoked pot, they'll continue to do that or move on to something stronger?
Right. Yeah, because it's just like smoking. I mean, you look at tobacco smoke. I mean, it is probably the most addictive substance on our planet, more than alcohol, more than caffeine, and far more harmful than any of those other things. And you take marijuana, it's the same thing. I have of nobody who is a casual marijuana smoker.
Yeah, I could stop any time.
Right.
They
all say that.
They all say it, but they really can't, can they?
They don't.
And they often graduate to other things.
Correct. And then it goes worse because like I said, that brain chemistry that gets altered, you get that chemical dependence, and so your body starts looking for the next high or something to make it feel just as good as when it first started.
So you actually become a different person over time, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Because all we have is our God-given personality.
Yep.
And Lord knows I've tried to maximize on that. Not too successfully so far, but yeah.
And we see it evolve over time in lots of folks. And like we were talking about, is the addiction becomes so strong as people will lie, not even aware that they're lying about it. And it's not until you actually sit them down and you kind of have this, I mean, that's where AA all got its formations, was that you have to admit that you are powerless over this medication, drug, substance, whatever it is. That's the whole foundation, is for the person to admit that I have no control over this whatsoever. And that's the first step in healing, to getting it under control.
Dr. Roman Nation, thank you for clearing that up for us. And I got to tell you, clean and healthy living, that's the only way to go. And if you want to get high, go out for a run. That's what I say.
That's true. That's true.
And we'll be right back after your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hi, I'm David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Shock absorbers and struts wear out pretty slowly, but you shouldn't take them for granted. Your shock absorbers and struts do a very important job, and you need to pay attention to them. Shocks and struts keep your tires on the road, and your tires will allow you to safely handle your car through turns, over bumps, and even stop in time. When your shocks are worn out, your tires bounce excessively over bumps. The car will lunge forward when you brake, it'll lunge backwards when you accelerate, and overall give you poor performance and poor handling. All of this hurts the ability for you to control your car and wears down on other suspension parts. Replacing worn shocks and struts saves money in the long run. We generally recommend replacing shocks and struts at 50,000 miles. Sometimes special needs arise for heavy-duty shocks. If you do a lot of towing or if you do a lot of hauling, a standard shock won't be sufficient. You need to come in and let us replace it with a heavy-duty shock. This will give you more stability and more control while you drive your vehicle. If you own a performance sports car, you need to have performance suspension and performance shocks and struts to give you the extra handling around the corners and curves. It's really a matter of safety. Lastly, experts advise replacing all 4 shocks or all 4 struts at the same time, so you have the same stability and same control at all 4 wheels. I'm David Lovett, and that has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247, and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Aaron Shores from Spine and Neural Pain Specialists here in Panama City, and also in Chipley, too.
That's correct.
I didn't know you had an office up there. Could have used you the other day, but that's a whole other story. You know, we're talking off camera about headaches, and you can get headaches for a wide variety of reasons, but there are some things that in your specialty you can identify as a cause of a headache or a chronic headache.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a common one that we see called occipital neuralgia, which is a small nerve on the back of the skull that sometimes...
Occipital neuralgia.
Yep, occipital neuralgia. It's a mouthful, but basically there's a small little nerve on the back of everyone's head, and I brought my buddy Bones here. All
right, let's check him out.
So Bones is missing part of his head here, but right here, this is the back of you, and this would be basically somewhere around your hairline on your neck. But right here on both sides, there's a little sensory nerve there called the occipital nerve. Right. This is the occiput, or the portion of the skull there. So the occipital nerve, and it sometimes can get irritated or become painful, sometimes for trauma, sometimes for no apparent reason. But this nerve causes a lot of pain on the back of someone's head, and it can even cause pain or numbness that can refer up here to the top of the head. And it sometimes can be a very difficult thing to treat because it doesn't respond well to oral medications. Physical therapy doesn't always work well for that particular nerve, and it's not something that one would want to consider doing surgery for. So oftentimes the mainstay of treatment for that is doing an injection called an occipital nerve block, where we can do this right at the office. It takes just a few minutes to do it, where we just put a little needle down here next to where that nerve runs, and we put a little drop of numbing medicine and a little drop of cortisone there, which is an anti-inflammatory, and that oftentimes helps work very nicely for that particular source of pain.
What causes that occipital nerve to flare up like that? I mean, is that a symptom of another underlying condition that we should be worried about?
Sometimes it can be. Oftentimes, it happens for no particular reason. I would say that we don't know why it happens in a lot of cases. Sometimes trauma can certainly cause it. Car wrecks and things can be a precipitating factor, or a bump on the head. Sometimes there are certain different types of arthritises, like rheumatoid arthritis, that sometimes can affect some of the other joints up here high in the neck, and that sometimes can irritate that particular nerve. But a lot of the times it occurs, and we just don't know why.
Wow. You know, in the old movies, you'd see somebody get knocked in the back of the head and they pass out.
Right.
Is that true? Or the Vulcan death grip where they grab a pressure point and you pass out?
I can't speak to the Vulcan death grip, but sometimes the blood in the back of the head can certainly cause you to pass out.
I guess it would. But it has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about, though.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably concussed.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with this nerve.
Exactly. But that can be a pretty significant source of pain for a lot of folks.
Sure.
And then in rare instances, sometimes the injections don't work well for that, and there's another way that we can sometimes treat that nerve, or we can actually freeze it.
Really?
And that can shut that nerve down and make it less painful for folks.
But you really do need that nerve. I mean, that is like a pain sensor for the back of your head? Is that
Well,
what
it
that
does supply sensation to the scalp on the back of the head there, but sometimes it can become such a significant source of pain that most folks would choose to have it injected and hopefully help alleviate that pain. So if you inject it with a little numbing medicine and cortisone, it doesn't make you insensate there for a long period of time. Sometimes folks may have a little numbness in the distribution of the skin just from the numbing medicine, but typically just a cortisone injection there in the area doesn't cause any substantial long-term numbness, but hopefully would alleviate the pain.
Now, if you're experiencing headaches and you have a source of pain on the back of your head, is it always going to be that occipital nerve, or
No.
can it be something else?
Yeah, it can be other things too, and that's something that's important to discuss with your physician, or certainly a physician with expertise in treating this kind of a condition.
Yeah, so you really have to tread lightly when you say, oh, geez, I saw it on the Don show, and I got an occipital nerve problem, and
Right.
maybe not. Maybe it's something entirely different.
Correct. Yeah,
What could
absolutely.
some of those other things be?
Well, there are knots that sometimes can occur in the muscles up here around the neck and the base of the skull. Everybody's probably heard their significant other say, "Oh, I have a knot. Can you rub that out, or go get a massage to make it
Is
feel
that
better?"
a real thing where you can have a knotted muscle or nerve that will cause a headache?
Yeah, absolutely. There are knots that occur in any muscle, and in a certain series of contexts can be called a trigger point injection, or what we call a myofascial pain syndrome. And that's just a taut band or a knot within the substance of a muscle that can refer pain to a different area when pushed on. So there are a lot of those knots that occur up here in the neck and the shoulder. That certainly can be significant pain generators, both for shoulder and neck pain as well as headaches.
Dr. Aaron Shores, always learn something when you come on the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Thomas Winterman, who is the author of The Thrive Life. If you haven't gotten this book yet, you need to get it. The Thrive Life is available on Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. And Thomas Winterman wrote this book, and actually because of your own personal journey towards self-improvement and self-awareness. And if you don't mind me embarrassing you, you actually turned your life around from what you thought was kind of a dead-end job, a dead-end career. You were overweight, and here you are, this fit, smart, successful guy.
Oh, well, thanks.
You're welcome. Now that I've built it up, everybody really wants to hear what he has to say. You've been giving us Thrive Thoughts for the week. What's our Thrive Thought for this week? What should we keep in mind as we take this week on?
For this week, it's to make your choice.
Make your choice.
Yeah, so many things in life we see as things that we have to do, things that we must do, things that we don't have control over, we don't have a choice about. But when you really stop and think about it, everything we do is a choice. Everything, from waking up in the morning, getting out of bed, putting your clothes on, what are you going to wear, what are you going to eat, when you get the kids up, what do you say to your family? Everything we do is a choice. And we get caught up in thinking, I don't have any control over this.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you do have a choice.
But there are some things that just have to get done. I mean, you've got to get the kids up. You got to get them off to school.
Right, but there's still a choice. But there's consequences for your choices. You don't have to go to work, but if you don't go, you'll probably get fired.
Oh, it's really cold out. The roads are icy. I got to get the kids to school. Your choice could be, they could take a day. They could take a snow day.
Yeah.
Not that it snows down here much, but you know what I'm saying. Or maybe it's not worth that. You do that risk-benefit analysis and say, I can roll with it today. So you really do have choices in life.
That's right, and the choices you make, they start to build up. Choices tend to become habits. Habits grow over time. They start to form your personality. All of a sudden, you've got a reputation based on those little choices that you made early in the day.
Wow, that's an interesting concept. So say, well, I just made it to the studio just in time today, but my choice was to stay in bed for an extra 10 minutes when I really should have gotten up.
That's right. Yeah, and those choices, they send messages to other people about who you are, what you're about, and why you do what you do. So if you can be conscious of those choices and what those things say to other people, you can start to realize you're in more control than you know.
What are some of the choices that you may have reevaluated in your own life?
It was really everything. It was really when I understood what my choices, what my behavior messages were actually saying about myself. When I told my wife with my words, I love you, that was great. When I ate whatever I wanted to, I didn't exercise, I had no career ambition, what those choices were saying is, I don't really care about you at all. And that was a hard realization for me when I realized that my life choices were saying and speaking more loudly than my words were.
So actually, building a life says I love you more than the words itself.
That's right, and the actions speak louder than words.
So you do have choices.
That's
And
right.
That's your Thrive Thought for the week. And we'll see you next time.